Hey everyone, welcome back to Embroidery Tutorials, where we are working our way through my 90 variation chain stitch sampler. We are currently on circle 4, and today we're going to be looking at some interlaced chain stitch variations, what you can do when you start interlacing chain stitch with more thread. You're going to start out with a regular chain stitch all the way around this circle. I've split the circle into thirds, but you can do it all one color if you want. I've just done different colors so that you can see the variation between each kind of stitch. Once you have your chain stitch laid down, and if you need to know how to do that, I have a video on basic chain stitch that I'll link up in the corner here. It was the very first one in this series. But once you finished all of your chain stitch on this entire circle, we're gonna thread our needle with a different color. You could even do a different kind of thread or a different thickness of thread if you want. For this first one, I am using a cotton pearl. I think a thicker thread, whether a different kind or just all 6 strands, is gonna show up best on this very first style of interlacing because it's just a single interlacing, and if you use a thin thread, it can kind of disappear underneath your chain stitch and you don't even really see it. So we'll start out by coming up through the fabric right next to that very first chain, and then we are just sliding our needle underneath each of the chain loops back and forth, so right to left, left to right, right to left, left to right, all the way to the end of this third. Now I'm not yanking this super tight as I go because, like I said before, it will disappear underneath your chain loops, but we're doing it pretty tight. This isn't the loose one. We're gonna do a loose one in a second. And when you get to the end, just go back down through the fabric. Now for our next variation, we're also going to be doing single interlaced, but like I just mentioned, we're going to try doing it loosely interlaced. So as I draw the needle underneath each of my loops, I am leaving a little loop of thread on the side. Now there's nothing to make this thread stay like it is except you not pulling it through. So if you yank on one of these loops as you're going, you're going to pull all of your excess from the other loops through. So you want to be careful around this one. You could always go back and tack down each of these loops with just a little tacking stitch afterwards, but I like for it to be hanging free. I like the look of it. You just want to be careful around it as you continue stitching other things. And once again, when we get to the end, we're just going back down through the fabric. Make sure as you're tying your knot on the back that you don't start pulling your thread too much and pulling out all of those loops you've created. Just keep a finger on it from the front so that you can keep your excess thread where you want it to be. And finally, on our last third of the circle, we're going to be doing double interlaced. So we're going to start out exactly like we did on the first one, interlacing all the way to the end of this section with just one piece of thread. But when we get to the end, instead of going through the fabric, we're just going to loop underneath our final chain stitch loop here, and then we're gonna go back in the other direction. I love double interlaced chain. I think it's a really good way to add some width and some texture and an extra color to your chain stitch if you're doing like lettering out of chain or anything like that. It's just a really interesting way to add some variety there. And that's it, you guys. We covered 3 different versions of interlaced chain. It is just so easy, which I'm sure is a delight after figuring out those rosette and braided band stitches earlier on this circle. It's always nice to come back to something so quick and so easy to pick up. Come back next time as we finish out circle number 4 with some Pekingese chain stitch, and I will see you then. Thanks so very much for watching.